Hi there. We're back talking with one of our agents, REMAX Centre Realty. I'm really excited for you to get to know Brian Rader of REMAX a little bit better. Hey, Brian.
Hello, Kate.
So
Glad to be
Brian,
here.
yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. And so that way people can get to know you a little bit better. Although I feel like people probably know Brian Rader. Brian, how long have you been in this area?
I've been in the area for 20 years and sold in the area for about 28.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Long time.
Yeah. Okay. I don't understand the math. So you've been in the area for 20 years.
Yes, so I've been with REMAX for 20. So REMAX has been my one and only stop in real estate. So that's been 20. The 8 years prior to that, I was with a company and doing commercial insurance. And I had a 5-county territory, and one of those counties was Centre County. So that was selling commercial insurance. So
Gotcha.
that's how I get to 28.
Where did you live when you were doing that?
So good question. So we lived in Hollidaysburg and Crescent. So that was kind of central to the geographic area. So that's that. So yeah, so pretty much I've been all throughout central PA, clearly the last 20 years, focusing on the State College area.
That's a fantastic background. Thank you, Brian. So Brian, totally different question. Rest of your life, you can only wear one thing. Are we wearing t-shirt and jeans, shorts and flip-flops, or suit and tie? What describes Brian Rader for those who don't know you?
Well,
I feel like I know. I'm just going to say, I feel like I know the answer.
I have that ought to be an easy question, and probably for most people would be, but I'm probably a little bit bipolar in that regard. So why I say that is, I like to throw on a lot of different flavors, for lack of better words. One time I was mistaken in the building for someone who was here painting. And then other days, perhaps I look like I'm more gainfully employed. So it's all over. I love jeans, t-shirts, shorts, suits, kind of the whole gamut.
You're too funny, Brian. You just couldn't decide. Just couldn't decide. So
I like to keep everybody on their toes. How's that?
Yeah, I love it. I do love that. So is there any type of series that you are just binge watching right now that you are just into?
We just wrapped up Yellowstone and Kevin Costner. So I appreciated that for lots of reasons. One is I do have a farming rural background, so that show takes place out in Montana, and I also love that area of the country. So, but probably the biggest thing I identified with that is just the ranching lifestyle. So that's has a lot of elements to it that I appreciate.
Would you go back to that ranching lifestyle?
I would not. And the reason for that is, so I grew up on a dairy farm. We had milked about 220 cows, and this is way back in the 80s, when that would have at that time been considered a pretty large farm. And I clearly remember in middle school, there were about 3 or 4 days that went by in the summertime. I'm just working on the farm. And 3 or 4 days went by, and I was like, darn, I really hadn't talked to anybody. And obviously the cows don't talk back. So at that point, I thought, this is probably not going to work for me. And on top of that, as much as I want to be mechanically inclined, I am not. So that was another problem, is that most farmers are able to fix a whole lot of things, and that was not me. And so I kind of just looked at my natural talents, and I'm also the youngest of 3 sons. So, and I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of money to go around. So I'm like, by the time I become older, we're certainly not going to feed 3 families off of this land. So someone's going to need to clearly go do something else, and I'll just gladly sign up for that and have that be me. I like the whole farming part of it, and And maybe if, we got into business 20 years ago. So at that time, moving contracts was still, oddly enough, a little bit more of an effort. So we had to scan documents, you break like a 20-page contract, you break it up into a third, and a third. So I knew way back then, I'm like, it's going to be a lot easier if I live in State College, if my family, my wife, Julia, and 3 daughters live in State College. So that's where we hung our hat. But I always have a yearning for being off the island, so to speak.
You're too funny. I love that, Brian. I love that. So we learned a little bit about maybe what you're not so good at, maybe be mechanically inclined. What is something that you are good at, maybe a strength of yours that you bring to your clients in real estate?
So, okay, I just have always enjoyed people. And they've always been kind of a natural fascination for me, I guess. So I have really enjoyed my sales career just with the clients that I have had the fortunate opportunity to get to know. So that's still, I still really enjoy that. That, and I've also enjoyed real estate. So, it's a good combination for me. So when I look at my natural talents, I feel like I'm really where I'm supposed to be. And I feel blessed to be able to say that because, I do feel there are a lot of people who may never kind of figure that out. So I consider myself one of the lucky ones to have been able to find a profession that I believe suits me rather well. So I would say the biggest strength would be just the relationships I have with people.
Yeah, your people skills.
Enjoy them. Yep.
That makes sense. Do I remember hearing correctly when you first started out in real estate, Brian, would you drop off baked goods?
Yeah. So when I got to State College, I knew a lot of times people think, oh, you got to know a bunch of people to get into real estate. Well, the thing I love about State College is, we're a town that is full of people who are not from here. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes people will think, oh, I have to be a local to get into real estate. Never felt that way. So when I moved here to State College, and now clearly I did know some of my clients, but I had 5 counties. I didn't have a lot of clients in the State College area. So I really only knew 2 people, Jackie Hunt and Annie Foytek. So that was it. And clearly neither one of them were going to be buying a house anytime soon. Jackie is my business partner. So that was never going to happen. So it was, I didn't know anyone. But what was your question? That wasn't really it.
Well, I was really getting at, you make a mean carrot cake. That's where I was going with this.
Yeah. So when I got in the business, and I still do a little bit today, I wish I had more time to do it today. It's probably one of the things I need to kind of recommit to is I did make a whole lot of it's pineapple. It was a pineapple walnut cake.
I don't think I've had that one. You're holding out on us.
And I'd make them, 12 or 24 loaves at a time and then package them up and then send them to clients. And that's the nice thing about bread. The bread is the nice food item that you can share with other people. I'm talking about the small loaves. Mm-hmm. And so, I did quite a bit of that. And probably it would be a great idea, Kate. I'm glad you brought it up. I should be getting back to doing that. It's been a couple of years since I've gotten the bread pans out.
Well, that's funny. I mean, I'm saying it selfishly just because I'd like to try some.
Well, I will return the favor and make sure that happens.
That sounds great. Oh, Brian, I feel like we've learned a ton about you. Thank you so much for sharing. If you want any of Brian's bread, or if you have any real estate needs and want to reach out to Brian, please be sure to hit him up. Brian, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kate. Always a pleasure.
See ya. Bye.